Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are really very honored to have Congressman Raskin to lead us through his legislation, which is so very important. So I hope you will prepare yourselves for a civics lesson or a presentation on the Constitution of the United States. The 25th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified in 1967 after the assassination of President Kennedy, with strong bipartisan support. Members of Congress have a duty to take all necessary action to preserve continuity of government and protect the stability and integrity of our democracy for the future. That is why today, again, it is my honor to welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, a constitutional scholar, as he introduces legislation to establish a commission on presidential capacity to discharge the duties and the powers and duties of the office. This is not about President Trump. He will face the judgment of the voters, but he shows the need for us to create a process for future presidents. Throughout America's history, our leaders have created and strengthened guardrails in the Constitution to ensure stability and continuity of government in times of crisis. The 25th Amendment creates a path for preserving stability if a president suffers a crippling physical or mental problem and is, quote, in the amendment, unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office and transfers his powers. Specifically, Section 4 of the amendment empowers Congress to set up an independent body to confront such a crisis. Congress has a constitutional duty to lay out the process by which a president's incapacity and the president of any party is determined. This bill honors the duty by creating a standing commission of top former executive officials and medical experts selected in a bipartisan, bicameral way. A president's fitness for office must be determined by science and facts. This legislation applies to future presidents, but we are reminded of the necessity of action by the health of the current president. With this bill, the Congress honors our oath to support and defend the Constitution and protect the American people, and we uphold our responsibility to preserve our republic for generations to come. This isn't about any judgment anybody has about somebody's behavior. This is about a diagnosis, a professional medical diagnosis. Let me just back up for a second just to put personal here. When this happened, it was after the assassination of President Kennedy. And you may not know this, you weren't born yet, but there was and Lyndon Johnson became president, there was no vice president. And if anything had happened to President Johnson, and his health was not the greatest, the Speaker of the House would have become the President of the United States. So this sets up how you would elect a vice president, how a vice president would be chosen by the president, but voted upon by the House and Senate. And of course, that's what happened with Gerald Ford. He was, after Spiro Agnew, all that, he was appointed the vice president and very popular in the Congress on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the Capitol. I love the story about how that happened because on his 90th birthday, Gerald Ford came to the House, which is where he sprang from. He was the minority leader. And I said, Mr. President, I'm so honored to serve. I was minority leader at the time. I'm so honored to serve in the position that you served in. And he said to me, I served with your father. I served with your father, and he started to tell me stories about that. When he died, I was the incoming speaker, and we had the honor of opening up the speaker's office and all the rest, even though I wasn't going to be sworn in for a day or two, but had possession of the speaker's office open to his family, who at the time he was minority leader, that's where he presided, and again, where his children came and did their homework and all the rest. So we have a real personal connection to Gerald Ford, who filled this spot as determined by the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. We can do a couple things at once. We can engage in our political activity for the public to make its verdict 25 days from now, and at the same time honor our responsibilities to have something in place that does not apply to this president, but certainly raises the issue. If a president, and this is, not with bad intention, if a president becomes incapacitated by stroke or ventilation, whatever it happens to be, that he would not have the ability, as Ronald Reagan had, as President George Herbert Walker Bush had, as President George W. Bush had, to make a judgment for this period of time, I transfer the power. So this sets up a formula. It's not for any of us to decide that. It's about a process to decide it. And as the distinguished gentleman said, without the vice president is crucial to this, and that would be the vice president of the president's party.
Madam Speaker, just a few weeks ago, or a week or two ago, you were toying with the idea of impeachment. Now you're talking about the 25th
I was doing what?
You're toying with the idea of impeachment.
I was not toying with the idea of impeachment.
And now you're
not
talking
have
about
a predicate that did not exist. Another question, because that is based on a false thing. Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, I'm just curious about the timing. Why introduce this legislation now? Why not wait until the new session of Congress? Things may have changed, may have a clearer view of the arc of the legislation and the Congress. Wouldn't it be easier when the decks are cleared just to wait until the next session?
Be ready, and it takes time, and there's been a call for why not execute the 25th Amendment. That's not what we're doing. We're saying let us Congress exert the power that the Constitution. It has always been gratifying for me, edifying, to go around the country, and no matter Democrats or Republicans, right or left or whatever, that the Constitution, the rules, are what really do unify us. And this is a comfort to people, that it's not about who's in power saying, I don't like the way he or she is acting. It's about a process that is bipartisan, based in the Constitution, giving Congress the power to do this, which Congress hasn't done, and again, at a time when people understand that it has there's a necessity for it. But again, to your question, it isn't about any of us making a decision as to whether the 25th Amendment should be invoked. That's totally not the point. That's not up to us. That's not up to us. But I do go back to Mr. Raskin's point. Just put yourself in a situation and your responsibilities to your family. Should any of you suffer a stroke or COVID and go to ventilation and all the rest of it, and are not capable of making decisions for your family, just because it's unforeseen, accidental, whatever happens, wouldn't you have in advance like to have had a plan for your family, even if it's temporary, God willing, even if it's temporary, that would be in place. So that's what this is.
Madam Speaker, on a related note, do you think...
You suggested that...
This will take one more because
Thanks, Madam Speaker.
I have a day job.
You've suggested that President Trump has an altered state of mind. What are the indications of that? And if I may, recently you commented on UK Brexit policy. Do you think Prime Minister Boris Johnson is an example of somebody whose capacity to govern is reduced by coronavirus?
I have no idea, nor do I have of President Trump. I just said he is under medication. Any of us who is under medication of that seriousness is in an altered state. He has bragged about the medication that he has taken. And again, there are articles by medical professionals saying this could, as I said earlier, could have an impact on judgment. I don't have the faintest idea about Boris Johnson, but I'm glad you brought up this subject because I think we have to be very careful about what happens in the UK. We have very stringent rules in terms of the Food and Drug Administration here about the number of clinical trials, the timing, the number of people, and all the rest, so that when a drug is approved by the FDA and the scientific advisory committee, that it is safe and efficacious, then it will have the trust of the American people to take it. So vaccines are about trust. We want people to take it. So we pray that it is soon. The sooner the better. Not one day sooner than it is safe and efficacious, but not one day later either. And my concern is that the UK's system for that kind of judgment is not on a par with ours in the United States. So if Boris Johnson decides he's going to approve a drug and this president embraces that, that's the concern that I have about any similarity between the two. Thank you all very
Madam
much.
Speaker, on a related note, do you think it's safe for the president to go out campaigning tomorrow?
They're really showing themselves to do really well. Come on, man.